Hello again. It's Sunday night. I'm awake. I took a nap today. I woke up very early today, so that's why I had to take a nap. Welcome back, everybody. It's time for more spooky stories with me, Ms. T.I. Tonight I'm going to tell you about 2 times when I went and helped some people that I didn't know. Now, I have to tell you, there's a lot of times that folks I do know will often ask me to come and check out a new apartment if they're going to be moving in, just to see if it's safe, or check out a new house or whatever, or to go do a cleansing of a house they're moving in, or just to make sure that things are settled and safe in their homes. But it's not that often that I go and help someone I don't know but who needs the help. So I'm going to start with one time where a person who none of us knew went into a place where my daughter worked. And she worked at a spa that had, in Chicago, that had a shop with all kinds of things. And this woman went in to purchase a bunch of sage, smudge sticks, and other protective things, clearly looking for some protection. And the saleswoman behind the counter asked her, she said, "It looks like you're trying to deal with some stuff. We have some people who might be able to help you with this if you're interested." And the 2 who worked there were my daughter Era and her friend Megan Rose, who Megan does house blessings and cleansings, and Era's just spooky like me. And so they said to get in contact. And when they talked to her, what was happening was she had just recently moved into a new apartment, and she had a dog. She lived alone with a big dog. And when she was getting ready to move, she started to have very unusual things happen, like lights all of a sudden shutting off, or lights all of a sudden turning on in the middle of the night. All kinds of odd, disturbing things, and her dog was getting kind of agitated, so to speak. Well, then after she moved, things seemed to just ramp up. She was settling into the apartment. She had all her things there. And she was having a lot of really scary things happen when she was there alone. And these things would ramp up when her mother was there. And so when Era and Megan Rose were talking, they thought that maybe it would be a good idea if I went and checked this house out for this lady, that there was something going on there and maybe I could help, since I was a mother. And we decided that Era and I would go together, mother-daughter, because it was a mother-daughter situation. And so we did. And when we got there beforehand, we set up a date, and then I went to Chicago. And Era and I, before I go into these things, especially with someone I don't know, I open myself up and start thinking about what might be happening, get a little bit of the story, and then just try to open up my consciousness, not open myself up to if there's something there, to come to me, but just to open up my subconsciousness to be aware of what might be happening. And as I was preparing to go, I kept just getting this feeling of a man, that there was a man involved, an older gentleman involved in this somehow. And he was trying to tell this woman something. I don't remember her name. I wouldn't say it anyway. But so when I got there, we talked about it, and Era had been having the same thinking, that she has something that he wants her to be aware of somehow, that there's an object involved, and there's an object that's connected to this person. And this object is the thing that's causing all the trouble. So we both felt that same way. It was interesting, I thinking on my own and her thinking on her own came to the same conclusion. So the day and time came where we were going to go to her apartment. And before we did that, we sat at the kitchen table, and we did our ritual protection and calling in our angels and our ancestors like I always do. You don't go into this stuff alone. It's always good to have allies on both sides of the veil, if you know what I'm talking about. Multiple sides, actually. And prepared ourselves with some protection oils and with some incense. And what I do is, I'm not a ghost hunter. I hate that term. I'm not a paranormal investigator. I hate that term. There is nothing not normal about these kind of events. These are part of the natural world. But I'm somebody who can sometimes help communicate between spirits and people, and thereby helping both with whatever issue is causing the rift, causing the problem. So what I do is I put the oil on the palms of my hands, and then I press it together, and I press and I feel that energy, and I call it in from the universe, and then I inhale the scent of those oils and exhale what I can only call like a love bubble. I smile as I do this. I do not go into these things with ferocity or with stern determination. I've learned that you really can't force, well, you can, but I do not choose to force things, to do things or go. I would much rather, I'm a problem solver. That's what I like to do. So I surround myself with this love. I push it out in front of me, and I soften. I mindfully soften the features on my face, smile, raise up my eyebrows, and then we're ready to go. So she lived on a busy street in one of the brownstones, I guess it's a brownstone apartment in Chicago, on the main floor. And it was up a few steps, and then there was a stoop, and there was a little driveway next to it, thank goodness, because it was one of the busy streets. We would have had to park 8 or 12 blocks away in that neighborhood. So we pulled into the driveway and went up and rang the bell, and we could hear the dog just going crazy inside, just woo, 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 freaking out. And she came out. Inside the door, there was like a hallway foyer that had another door, so it was like a mudroom almost. And she came out there and she said, "Wait in your car. My dog is freaking out. My mom is going to take the dog. And then after she and the dog are gone, you guys can come in." We said, fine, and went and got in the car. And minutes later, the mother came out with this big dog on a leash, and he's just snarling and growling. As soon as he hit those stairs, he's tugging away to get down those stairs. And that mom, she turned and she looked at us. And I got to tell you, if looks could kill, she just shot daggers from her eyes at us. Like, she was not having it. I think she thought we were there to fleece her daughter. Something else you should know is that I don't take payment for this. This is not something that I do for a living. I'm a music teacher for a living. I have other ways that I earn my living, and I do not take money for doing this. This is heart work. This is something that is like something I give back. But we don't say that out front. I suppose we probably should. But this mother was pretty sure that we were bamboozlers there, and we were going to just totally scam her daughter. I'm not sure if she kind of believed what was happening to her daughter, but apparently things were happening when she was there as well. So Mom took the dog, and they went off down the street to walk away somewhere. And so we went up and rang the bell again, and she opened the door and let us in, and I stepped into the foyer, and we took our shoes off, and then stepped into you walk in, and then you turn to the left is a big living room, beautiful apartment, beautiful. And then to the right is big windows in front on the street. Then to the right is a dining room, and beyond that is a kitchen, and there's 2 bedrooms off to the right, and then there's another like small bedroom, could be, or storage room, off of the kitchen, and then a back porch. And we, right by the foyer, there was a table there. Now we came with supplies for blessing, to do a house blessing after we took care of whatever was there. It was she had just moved in, so you want to do that anyway. And we also brought supplies to do a cleansing if necessary. And we just placed all that stuff right on the table so that we left it there, and then we walked in empty-handed, pushing this light out in front of us. But boy, oh boy, the minute I stepped over that threshold, I felt this frantic urgency. There was somebody there that was yelling at the top of his lungs, just yelling, trying to get my attention, yelling, but I couldn't hear him. And this was not a situation where, I know I've told you that when ghosts communicate with me, I remember, it's like I have a memory that was not my own. This was not happening here. He was trying to talk to me, to talk to her. And I'm trying to understand what he's saying, and I'm just like, I can feel him just there as she's showing us through the house. And we just wanted to walk through and get a feel. And the place, it just felt super energetic. But this guy was sticking right with us. And it was like, trying to tell me something. And we went in the kitchen, and she told us some of the things that had been happening. She told us that very often at night, she would be sleeping, and she would all of a sudden wake up wide awake and sit up, and a light would go on. And she lived alone, and so it made her nervous. She had a dog, and the dog would like, growling, and it scared the heck out of her. And when she'd get up and look around, there was nobody there, and then the dog would settle down, and she'd turn off the light, and she'd try to get back to sleep, and oftentimes she wouldn't be able to sleep till dawn. She said that very often the kitchen dishwasher would just go on its own. She'd be standing at the stove preparing some food, and all of a sudden the dishwasher would go on. Other things that would happen is she would be in the kitchen, and the water faucet, the kitchen faucet, would just full force just shh in the sink, and she would be like, it would always startle her. It would always scare her and it was really stressing her out, and it was stressing the dog out like crazy. Another thing that she said happened more than once, one time when her mother was over, they were standing in the kitchen with cups of coffee, and when her mother was there, this stuff really ramped up. The water would go on, lights, they'd be standing there, and the lights would just go off and then on. And one time they were standing in the kitchen, and something unseen just batted her coffee mug right out of her hand, and it flew halfway across the kitchen, right out of her hand. And when she and her mother are standing there, it's like, and her mom's like, "Why did you do that?" She's like, "I did it. I didn't do that." So she's telling us this while we're standing in the kitchen, and then I get from him this notion that both Erin and I had, that she has something of this man. But first of all, I wanted to figure out who the heck this guy was. And I kept getting daughter from him, and I said, it's somebody who has passed not real recently, but within the last year and a half or so, maybe 2 years. And he keeps telling me, daughter, was there somebody, is your father living? And she said, yeah, my father's alive. I said, well, he keeps saying daughter, and it's associated with you. Did you have a stepfather or something? She says, no, I never had a stepfather. And then she's thinking, and then she says, oh, but my mom was engaged to this guy who died. And he's like, and I said, I think this is him. Did he think of you as a daughter? Did you think of him as a father figure? She says, no, not at all. He was a business partner of her mother's, and they had this business together, and then it turns out that he was cheating on her over a long period of time. She ended up kicking him out of the business, and just leaving him behind. And this had been well before he died. and he had married the person he had cheated on her with, so he was married to somebody else. She said, I never thought of him as a father figure or anything. And I said, well, it's this guy. Do you have anything of his? And she's like, no. And we went in this back room off the kitchen, and it was really strong. There was really strong energy in there. And she had a rack with all kinds of clothes just hung up there. And it was like, do you have a coat or a hat or something that belonged to him? It was something very, very close, something that was on a person. So it wasn't like a lamp or something like that. It's something that you wear. And she said, I don't have anything like that. And so I was like, there's something. And then we went back out of that room, and he's still there, and he is still just frantically telling me, she has my thing. And I'm saying this, you have his thing. She has my thing. She has my thing. There's, it's a thing. It's a thing. And then all of a sudden I said, you have his ring. And the kid, we were standing in the kitchen, and I kid you not, it was like the air was sucked out of the room. You get this enormous rush, and just this poof, all the hairs on your body stand up, and all three of us just, inhaled sharply. And this woman said, what the hell was that? And I said, that's ghost for bingo. Do you have a ring that belonged to him? And she said, I do. She told us that when he and her mother broke up, before that, he had given her an engagement ring. And after they broke up, it was just such a nasty betrayal. She did not want the ring. And so she just asked her daughter if she wanted the ring. And she said, sure, I'll take it. It was a beautiful antique ring. And she also said, I said, do you still have it? And he's nodding. And she said, yeah, I do have it. I almost didn't have it, she said. She said that when she was packing to move, she was going through stuff to scale things down and looking at things to sell that she didn't want to hold on to and didn't need, and pulled that ring out and was thinking of selling that ring and put it in a pile with things to sell, and then decided against it and put it back in the box. And I said, so when you were thinking of selling that ring, is that right about the time that you started to have strange things happen in your old apartment? And she goes, oh my goodness, that's exactly when it started. And then I said, does he have a daughter? And she said, yeah, he has a daughter. And then I got from him that this ring was an heirloom ring. It had been his mother's engagement ring. And he wanted his daughter to have it. He wanted it to be back in his family. And so I asked her if she still had any kind of connection with the daughter, if she was able to get in touch with the daughter. And she said, yes, she could do that. And I said, well, I think what you need to do is make sure that his daughter gets that ring. And she said, I will. And I said, you promise you'll do that? And she said, I promise I will do that. I will do that tomorrow. And I said, great. And then I looked at him and said, okay, that's all. And then this bozo starts telling me, oh, and the business, he starts telling me that he never got his fair share of the business and that he wants his widow to get some of the business. And I said to him, and I'm saying this out loud, I must have looked like I was crazy because I'm talking to thin air, but I'm talking to this guy, and I just said out loud, dude, it's not your business. I'm not going to talk to anybody about your share of anything. We'll make sure the ring gets to your daughter, and that's it. Now we're done here, and you need to go, or I'm going to take the ring with me, and she'll never see it again. He's like, oh, okay. And then he was gone. And the whole place lightened up. But I have to tell you something that I forgot to tell in the beginning. This dog that she had in this new apartment, this dog had started behaving very, very strangely. It was anxious. It was like chewing on parts of its body. It was getting very agitated. It became extremely aggressive toward her, and she had raised this dog from a puppy, and so aggressive that there were times that she would have to cover it with a blanket and hold it under the blanket until it calmed down. She had taken the dog to the vet and had a full workup to see if there was like a brain tumor or something physical happening to this dog to cause it to have, like, were these seizures? What was it that was causing this sudden aggression and this anxiety in this poor creature? And the vet could find nothing. So right after we determined that she was going to return the ring, and I said, well, I think you're going to find that things are going to be better now. And then we were standing in the kitchen, and no, at that time we were in the dining room. We had gone from there into the bedroom where she had the ring, and I said, let's pull the ring out. And as soon as I put it in my hand, I knew exactly that was it. And I said to him, we'll make sure that that this gets where it needs to get, and now you can go. And I gave it back to the woman, and as we walked out of her bedroom, we saw something. Era and I saw it. I don't know if the woman who lived there saw it. I kind of hope not. But there was a thing that skittered across the floor. And the only way I can describe this thing is it moved like Mercury. You know how Mercury just will move across a space? It moved like that, but it was black. It was like ink black, except ink will like reflect a little light. This was just black, sucking in light. And it was amoebic, and it moved like a lizard. I can understand how ancient people, saw these things perhaps and saw them as demons and lizards and serpents, from hell or whatever. But this thing just skittered across the floor and flew into that back room off of the kitchen. And Era just looked at me and said, I don't think we're done here. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think we're done here either. Now, I have seen these things before. I'm sure I will see them again. I'm not sure of their nature. I'm not positive if these things are like a bundle of bad energy. And I've seen them where there's been a lot of like violence or fear. And so in places where there's poltergeist activity, where there's really serious haunting stuff going on, these things will appear. Now, I'm not sure if they are drawn to that, if they already exist and are drawn to that, or if they are created by the anxiety, if they're created by the terror and the bad feeling. And so as you put that bad feeling out, the energy just kinds of collect until it becomes this black thing that actually is now interacting back with your environment. And this thing just scooted right back into that back room. We're like, okay, we're going to have to take care of this and bust up this energy. So we went back to the table by the front door. We had Palo Santo. Remember, I use sage as a calming thing. Palo Santo is a powerful cleanser. Palo Santo is also an antimicrobial. And it's a wood, and where I get it, it's harvested by already dead trees, so it's sustainable. It's not like clearing out forests in South America to harvest Palo Santo. It's gathered in the forest. And we had a couple sticks of Palo Santo. We had brought more blessing oil. We had brought blessing incense and a shell, a white conch shell, and a big white feather. And we said, okay, we're going to take care of this and clear this out. You just stay here in the living room. And Erin and I went to the back. And what we decided we would do is she would light the Palo Santo and use the feather. And you have to get the smoke everywhere, like in the closet corners and up in the corners of houses, and just clear everything out. And as we did this, as we spread this smoke, starting in the back room, we said we cast out all darkness, only goodness and light may dwell in this place. And we just kept doing it. And we took that tiny room and filled it with smoke. And she was doing this, and I was behind. As we left the room, we pushed it out, and we could feel it out the room. And then I stood behind her and put up an energy field so that this thing couldn't slip, because it was slippery. I mean, it was very slippery. And I didn't want it sliding back behind it. We wanted to get it out of there. And then it slipped into the kitchen. And we went and did the same thing. We cast out all darkness, only light and goodness may dwell here. And did that whole kitchen, and it went into the dining room. And I'm standing by the kitchen door, so I can't get back in the kitchen, as air goes around the room, counterclockwise, in all the corners, along the floor, and then into the small room to the side there, the bedroom. Did that, and I just blocked the way after a place was cleansed. I put my body in the way of the place that had not been cleansed, and then did it in the living room, and this thing went and slipped into her room, her bedroom. And it was a small room, and it had one window and the door, and we went in there. This thing, it was visible. It was so present, and it had congealed into like a ball about this size. It wasn't a round ball, it was like this orb shape, like an amoeba, black amoeba in the corner. And as she was putting the smoke by it, I could see like these flecks of black just coming off of it, like when you put your hand down on, if you like put glue on the page and then lift it up, all those little strings of glue that come off. It was like that. It was like these little flecks and strings of black just coming off of this thing, and it was shrinking as we're saying chanting the words and smoking the room, and it went out in the living room. We went over in the corner of the living room, and the woman is standing there like this in the living room as we're getting all this space and clearing this space and making sure this thing doesn't slip under my feet. And I said to her, open the door, open your front door. And we could have just cornered it and kept smoking it and dissolved it. But, if you don't have to kill something, why do it? You know what I'm saying? So guided it over towards the door, and using the feather and the smoke, she opened the one door and the other door, and it went out in that foyer, and it just went and right down the street. Now, I'm not sure where it went. Down the street was toward Lake Michigan, so I'm hoping it just made its way to the lake where it could just do something, but probably went to Gary, you know how that is. But it was gone, and everything, the place was like flat. It was like a normal place at this point. And so we had also brought a concoction of salt and hyssop. So we put salt and hyssop on the doorstep, because sometimes things can find their way back. And we wanted to make sure that, now by this time, the mother is sitting out in the car with the dog. And the dog starts barking when we open the door. And after this thing's gone, the dog stops barking, and the mother is still looking at us, staring daggers at us. And we laid the salt down on the doorstep, put cinnamon sticks above the outside doors. Those are good protections. And left her with instructions and the supplies. We left her with the house blessing, told her how to bless her own house, that now it was clean, now you have to bless it and put your own energy into it. We gave her all the supplies for free. We told her how to deal with if something, and I'll tell you this too, that if something wakes you up that scares you at night, and you feel an energy there. I don't know if any of you have ever done that, where you all of a sudden wake up and you feel like something is there. What we tend to do is go, or tuck under the covers. You hear that all the time. I just tucked under the covers. Well, here's a way to dissipate it. And this has worked for me every single time. And people that I've told to do this have told me that it has worked for them. In that situation, instead of freaking out, because it's like this is not coming to get you. It's just there. So to break up energy, the best way to break up energy is to laugh. And so when you first have your startle, you're scared, you get that rush. You know how some people laugh when they get scared? Like, do that. Just start to laugh. And even if you're scared, raise up your eyebrows and till you're tired. And then look around. And the energy in your room will have completely changed. It just busted up. So we told her to do that. And just like I told you. And we left her with everything she needed. And we wished her well and said she had Era's number. And if anything came back or happened, to please get in touch. And we would come back and help out again. And she was just amazed. And after we pulled out, and her mom went in, like a month or so later, Era got a card at where she worked from this woman who thanked us and said that everything had been perfect since then. And she felt even more gratitude, not just gratitude for taking care of the immediate issue. She told us that the ring got to this guy's daughter, but she also thanked us for giving her the knowledge and the courage and the ability to be able to deal with stuff like that herself. So that was one time. That was kind of fun. I'm going to tell you one more. Similar, not similar at all, but of going to a stranger's house to help them with some disturbing things. So I work with this lovely young woman who is just pure joy and kindness and love. And she and I talk ghosts because we work together in the haunted school, and if you listen to that story. And she's had some experiences there, as you know. Well, watch that story if you haven't yet. I think that was the first one. But she told me that she had a friend who was having some real disturbing things happen at her house, and that they didn't know what to do. And she had told her that she knew somebody who might be able to help. Yeah, that's me. So she asked if I could give her my number, and I said yes, or give me her number or whatever. I said, yeah, I'll do what I can. You know, I'm never sure I can help in these things. You know, it's not a given that I'm going to be able to connect with stuff, but I'm always willing to try. Well, generally willing to try. Sometimes it's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that now. But if somebody needs help, now the reason that I decided to go to this one is because the person in the household being tormented was a little 2-year-old girl. And what had happened was they had the family that lived all together was a multi-generational family. It was the mom and dad, their daughter and her daughter, and then some sons that also lived in this household. So there were several people who lived there. And the daughter's partner, the little girl's dad, I don't know if they were married or not, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose. But the baby's dad had gone to Afghanistan, and when he came back from Afghanistan, he suffered from PTSD, and he became addicted to drugs. And he was it was not safe to stay with him with the baby, and so the woman brought the baby and moved back in with her parents, and he was living alone in an apartment and addicted to drugs. I'm not sure what drugs he was taking. It doesn't matter. But at some point, he died of an overdose or something. They found him passed away. And after this is when all this stuff started to happen. probably the most significant and creepy thing that happened is this little girl had slept in a room, and the house was on top of a hill with nothing around. The nearest house was, like a city block away, and it was like this, just no woods around, nothing. It was like this bare hill, like it was built on the top of a farm hill. And one night, the little girl woke up just freaking out. She was waking up regularly, freaking out, staring at the window. They got curtains, put up the curtains, and still she would wake up staring at the window and pointing at the window and saying, "He go, he go, he go." And so the brothers, after one of the times that this happened, it had snowed. And so there was snow on the ground. And in the morning, they decided that they were going to go and see if somebody was coming up to the window and waking this kid up. So they went around to the side of the house, and there, just outside her window, were indeed 2 boot prints. And there's also dog prints next to it, like a person with a dog had been there. And it was clear that this person was standing and looking in the window. Now they wanted to know who this was. They were going to call the cops. Now this was an intruder. This was somebody threatening their family. So they started following the footsteps down the hill, and about halfway down the hill, both the dog and the human footprints vanished. It was not like over a slope where it would get windswept. They were like in deep snow footprints, and they just stopped halfway down the hill. So that's when she mentioned something to Jill, who mentioned something to me, and I'm like, oh, okay. I had a kind of an idea of what was going on. So I said, yep, I'll go. So we set up a time, and it was about a half hour away from where I was teaching. And so I decided I was going to go one day after school while it's still light out. And I didn't want to do it on a weekend. I wanted to have it be a defined amount of time. I didn't want it to turn into a big, huge ordeal because I didn't know what I was walking into, you know what I'm saying? So I had to prepare myself to go to this house and deal with some spirit that was hanging out outside this little girl's window. And I was not going to do that at school because that's just too weird. I'm not going to light incense and a candle and stuff, but I had it in my car. So I drove out of the parking lot, and I found a place to park, the park and ride. And I set up my little in-car altar, lit my incense, did my protection oil, focused, and I sent a message to this young man. I could picture him somehow. I did this as soon as I heard that it was this dad who had died, this veteran. I could see him, and I just let him know I'm coming to help, and I'll be there, And then I put my bubble of love around me, called in my protectors, turned on my GPS, and started driving there. And as I said, it was about a 35 minute drive to get there. And when I got there, there's this long driveway up the hill. And here's this big house at the top of the hill that's, multi-car garage, just this beautiful home. And I pulled up, and there's nobody around. I don't see any cars or anything. And I'm not sure I'm in the right place because GPS, when you're out in the bush, out in the middle of farmland, is not always accurate. I've gone to the wrong house more than once to pick up Layla. And so I texted the woman who I was supposed to meet and described where I was and said, am I in the right place? Because I didn't want to go up and ring a doorbell smelling of Palo Santo and incense, but not Palo Santo. But anyway, and she said, yep, I'm 5 minutes away. I'll be there. Just hang on. I'll be right there. So 5 minutes, she gets there, and we walk in. And I didn't really feel... Oh, I forgot this. This is kind of important. On my way driving there, I do this. I forget things. I'm getting old. But as I was driving there, I'm on these country roads. There's no other cars around, and all of a sudden, I get this stabbing pain in my head, right behind my ear. I mean, it was like somebody hit me in the head with a hammer, right there behind my head, and literally, it was like I saw stars. It was blinding, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" And I thought, "Oh my God, I'm having a stroke." So I just pulled the car over, and I stopped the car, and as soon as the pain happened, it subsided. It was gone. It was not a continuing, like you get a headache and it's sort of dull pain there. It was just completely gone. And all of a sudden I knew that was not my head I was feeling, that was his. So something, and I said to him, okay, I know that was you. Don't do that again. I don't want to feel what happened. I'm coming. We can talk about this, but don't do that again. Or I'm turning around. I'm not going to have somebody hit me in the head. Just saying. So then I knew that was going to be something important, that was going to be important information for me to know before going there. So I'm waiting for her. She comes and we go inside, and it does not feel like a haunted place. It didn't have that icky energy that places can have. I brought my bag with me that had Palo Santo just in case I needed to do a cleansing, and the feathers, and and I brought a bell, a little silver bell, will also help dispel energy. And I brought my selenite candle holder, because selenite is like a crystal, and you put the candle inside the candle holder and it illuminates the whole thing, and it's like a draw. It helps draw spirits in. It's like a beacon kind of thing, I suppose, more so than I am. So we walked in, and they had this big like dining table just off the kitchen, and with a lot of chairs around. It was a multi-generation family, big family that lived there all together. And I sat down on one of the chairs, and across the table from me, the woman who was the friend of my friend sat across and to one side, and directly across from me was her daughter. And in her daughter's lap was this little 2-year-old girl, cute as a button. This just, she just smiled at me, and I sat down and I pulled out a few things and just sat there, and I just wanted to let them talk for a little bit and tell me what was going on, tell me what their concerns were, and try to give a chance for this young man to hear how they're feeling about all this going on. This is important. People that love us don't want us to be afraid, don't want us to be freaking out. And I wanted them to hear the fear and that. So as I was sitting there, as soon as I put the stuff out, this little girl pops off her mama's lap, comes all the way around the table, and stands next to me and put her hand on my lap and patted my leg, and then put her hands up for me to pick her up. And I said, "Oh, you want to come sit with me?" And I pulled her up in my lap, and I look up, and both the mom and the grandma are like, and they told me that this little girl did not go to anybody except her mom and her grandma. This little girl wouldn't even go to her grandpa. This little girl wouldn't go to her uncles. She would never go to a stranger. And they told me this, and I said, "Well, I think she knows I'm here to help." And they were like, okay. So I started to talk to them and have them tell me what was going on. And this poor young woman, the first question they had was if that they were afraid of foul play, because they weren't certain. They didn't think he killed himself, and he could have died of an overdose, but it was like a undetermined cause or something of death. And they were really concerned that there had been some kind of foul play, because he was dealing with some seedy people, apparently. Excuse me a minute, gotta wet my whistle. Cheers, everybody. So the first thing I did, after hearing all this, and this woman said that she felt really, really guilty too, because she kept saying, if I was there, this never would have happened. If I hadn't left him, he'd still be alive. And all of a sudden, he's right there. And he's like right behind me, and I hear the sound of his voice. And he's saying, you did the right thing. You did the right thing. You couldn't stay with me, and you couldn't stop it. And so I just told her that. I said, he's telling me that you did the right thing and that you could not have stopped it. And now tears start flowing for her. And I said, I saw, so then another woman came, and this was after we'd been there for several minutes, and now the little girl has gotten off my lap, and she was playing with some of my trinkly things, and now she's sitting in her high chair over on the side of the table having a little snack. This other woman comes, and she comes in and just gives me the stink eye, and sits down at the table on the same side as me, and just clearly a skeptic, and she's like, she's not going to buy any of this stuff. And he immediately just softened. And I just said, you have a special connection to, and I said his name. And she said, yeah, we all do. And I said, no, you have a special connection. You've been thinking about him a lot. And then he showed me something that has been like real eye-opening for what happens right after people die. He said that he showed me that before he knew he was dead, when he was really confused, he didn't know what was going on. He thought he was tripping or dreaming or something. And I think this may happen when you die of a drug overdose, because you're already high, and then you your consciousness is in a different place, and it just was anyway, kind of thing. But he said that what happened was somebody would think of him and instantly he'd be with them, and then somebody else would think of him, and he said he was just being pulled all over to all these people who were thinking of him and who were grieving. And he said it felt like a punishment, because he was, he didn't know what they were so upset about, and he knew he was causing them pain, and he didn't do this on purpose, and he didn't mean for this to happen. And then I said to them, he didn't mean for this to happen. He didn't mean for any of it to happen. And then this woman said, we think somebody may have killed him. And I said that's when I said that he had a blow on the back of his head. And I said, he showed me this on the way here, that he was injured on the back of his head, back here behind his ear. And they're all like, yes. And the door was unlocked. And they're like, yes, that's why we think there was foul play. And he shook his head. And he showed me that he had passed out, and he hit his head. There was this big chunky coffee table in front of the couch. And I said that there was a big chunky coffee table, and he was found in front of the coffee table, and he had hit his head on the coffee table and then staggered and passed out. And I said he himself unlocked the door. And this was what was strange, and I still don't know this to this day. I am not sure if he unlocked the door before he became unconscious, or if he unlocked the door in his spirit self, because he said he unlocked the door so someone would find him. And I did not see, I saw him hit his head and go down, and then I saw him go to the door. So maybe his ghost unlocked that door. I don't know, or his astral self when he was still alive, or I don't know how it happened, but he said he unlocked that door so someone would find him. And then now I'm winning this woman over, because I knew stuff about how they found him and how he died that nobody else would know. So that's always helpful when a ghost will do that for me, so that people can then relax a little bit and start listening to them. So then he starts telling me this stuff really quickly. he starts saying his little girl, and he had a nickname for her, and he said and he kept saying her name, and he feels terrible. He doesn't want her to think of him and how he died, and he wasn't a bad person. He wants her to know that he loved her and that he wasn't a bad person. And I'm saying this, and now all the people in the room are tears just coming down. The little girl's just eating her little goldfish crackers and just watching everything, totally unfazed by it all. And then he starts saying stuff so fast, and I'm like, wait, slow down. And then he comes up against my back, and like he's pushing against me, and it's like, here, I'll tell them. And it's what he's wanting to do is use my body and use my voice to like come inside my body and talk directly to them. And I said, stop, whoa, everybody stop. And I turned around and I said, back up. There is no way, and there is no way, I would never allow this. There is no way you are going to use my body or my voice. You can tell me anything. I will tell them what you tell me. I may filter it because that's what I do, but I will give them your message. Stay out of my body or I'm packing up and going and kicking you out of here. And he said, and he literally said, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, ma'am. And he stepped back. And I said, okay, now I have to settle myself, and I had to because he had invaded my protections. It startled me, and he was just running into me, and so I had to stop and reestablish my protections around my body to make sure that I would be safe. That's a really important thing. I did not want to leave there drained of anything. So then he starts telling me that he didn't die from drugs. He died of a sickness. And he died of a sickness that he got in the war. And he wants his little girl to know that he died of a sickness. And he wanted that to be the story. And he also told me that the picture, and I said to them, you're showing her a picture of him. And the mom said, the little girl's mom said, yeah, I have a picture of him, and I show her and says, this is daddy, so that she remembers him. And we're going to put together a little picture book so that as she grows up, she has a picture of who her daddy was. And he's shaking his head, and he said, that's not who I was. There's a picture I want you to show her, and I want you to put it where she can see it, and maybe even write, your daddy loves you. And then he's showing me this picture, and it's in a box, and this woman sitting next to me who was like his sister-in-law, this guy's brother's wife, and she'd known him since he was a little boy and was very protective of him. And he looked at her and said, in the box. And I said, you have a box full of photographs and some other things? And she said, yes, of course. And he showed me this picture. And it was a picture that was like a 5x7. And it was a picture of him smiling. He was wearing a blue shirt, and there was like a green background. And it was a picture that was taken just before he left for the war. And he said, that's the picture I want my little girl to know me by. That's the picture I want her to think about when she thinks of me. That's the person I really am before I got sick. And she said, I've never seen a picture like that. And I said, well, I'm thinking that if you go through that box, you're going to find it. I said, I'm pretty sure he's in a blue shirt, but it's like a waist up picture. He's got this grin on his face and this swagger and clear-eyed, and like the whole world is out in front of him. You'll know the picture when you see it, and that's the one, not the one that she's seeing now, because that was taken when he was already addicted to drugs, and he did not want her to see him addicted to the drugs. And so she said, okay, I'll look, we'll do that. And then he's still standing there, and he's looking really sadly at this woman who he loves, and she's weeping. And I said, there's one more thing that has to happen. And I said to her, you have to let him go. And she's like, oh, I'm not ready to let him go. I can't let him go. And she puts her head down and starts to just sob, and her mom puts her hand on her back, and I just sat there very peacefully and calmly. And the little girl wants to get out of the chair, and the auntie goes and pulls the little girl out of the chair, and she goes over to her mother, and she's hugging her mother too, and her mom picks her up and puts her on her lap. And I said, when people that we love never go too far. And you know that stupid saying that they'll always live in your heart? Well, it's not just your heart where they live. That when hearts connect, you always have a connection, wherever they are. You'll feel it. You'll know it. And you'll feel it not in a desperate, I've lost you way, but in a there, I feel your love way. So when you let him go, you free him and you free yourself to find this new connection, this new language in this new way. And she's like, I know I have to. And I said, it doesn't have to happen now. You can do it whenever you're ready. It's and you won't even need me to do that. And she said, I'm ready. I want you to be here. I think I'm ready. And so I said, okay. And her mom, her face is all wet. She lifts her little girl up in her lap. And now, remember, I went after school. So we're at the top of this hill. And the big windows, there's a room off of the dining room where we're sitting. That's like a den or a family room. It's, one of these real country decorated, beautiful places with a bank of windows facing the southwest and, or north, anyway, facing westish. And she says, okay, I'm ready. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, and this gives me goosebumps, it may have just been timing and where the sun was, but this blast of golden light just filled that room, and it filtered through the blind thing, so it was like these streaks of light into that room, and we all just looked, and then just as quickly it faded, like the sun had set, or the light faded, and the little girl said, "Bye-bye, Daddy." And he was gone. Yeah. It wasn't anger that kept him there. He wanted his story to be told the way he really was, None of us want our story to be about us at our worst. Please don't tell a story about me at my worst. When I'm gone, tell stories about me when the world is my oyster. And that's what we could do for each other, and remember each other, and help each other when we need help, right? So as I was leaving, they were quite grateful. I just packed my stuff up to get out of there quickly because now they had some grieving to do together, and I just wanted to make myself scarce. So I was heading out through the hallway to the garage, and the mom comes up and she grabs my hands, and she's got like the wad of bills in her hands. She says, "Here, I want you to have this." And I said, No, don't give me that. She said, "But you came all this distance, and just for your time, not for anything else." And I said, "No, I'm not taking that." And I said, "Here's what you can do. You have ways that you can help other people. You have things that you can do to help people in need." I said, if you were driving down the road in the middle of a snowstorm and you saw somebody and their truck was down, wouldn't you stop and call for help for them? I said, just do that. Just help somebody in ways that you can. And I said, you have special gifts too. Maybe not these gifts, but there are ways you can help people. Just do that. And just do that just for the love of it, and for the love of them, and just for the love. And so in that way, we keep spreading the love, right? That's what we do. That's what I do. Wow. I guess I'm just about out of time here. It's been fun. I've enjoyed, some of you have reached out to me on Messenger with questions and things like that. please feel free to do that. Also, feel free to make comments in the page and have discussions about things. So many of us, this happens more often than you realize, and little things will happen that you can write them off, but there are some things that maybe you can't write off so easily. And talk to each other. And apparently, there are people here who like hearing about this kind of stuff. So lean on one another, and if I can help in any way, if I'm able, I'm willing, and on the comments or other ways as well. I'm not going ghost house cleaning. These are special cases. This is not what I do for a living, so don't you have to come to my house. If you're having an issue and I can help you, I will help you, but good Lord, I don't want to spend all my time doing that. I have anyway, but if you need help, I'm here. So take care, be good, be kind to one another, wash your hands, and don't touch your face. And hang in there. We've got this. The curve is already flattening. Don't give up now. Don't give up now. Now when it's really working is when we have to really stick with it. It's like you start taking those antibiotics, and you start feeling really, really good, and so you stop taking those antibiotics. And the next time you need those antibiotics, then they don't work so well, or the infection comes back. Take the full course. We have to go the full course on this. Stay safe, stay home, be kind, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye.